This one too. This one too. All right, good evening, everybody. Special meeting of the Board of Trustees of Harlandale Independent School District will be held Tuesday, June 27, 2023, beginning at 6:15. It is now 6:25 p.m. Central Office, PDC 102 Genesee, San Antonio, Texas 78214. The board meeting will be held in person. Members of the public that cannot attend the meeting in person can access viewing the meeting via YouTube. A recording of the meeting will be made available to the public within 5 business days at the Harlandale ISD website, www.harlandale.net, under the school board /board meeting videos page. An electronic copy of the agenda packet may be accessed at the Harlandale ISD website under the school board /board book page prior to the meeting. The board may go into a closed session on any agenda item and permitted under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. In such event, the board president will announce the applicable government code section prior to the board going into closed session. So meeting called to order by myself, Ricardo Moreno, roll call and recording of board members present. Whenever we're ready, we can go ahead and call for the vote for. All right, Mr. Close ready. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. And then we can go ahead and close, sir. All right, so everyone is present, or we are missing Mr. Mancha, and he will be on the way, and we'll make note of it as he arrives. But we do declare a quorum present. Mr. Soto, if you don't mind. Oh, and I apologize too. We have Dr. Castleberry here as well. So thank you for joining us, ma'am. We have recording of superintendent and staff members present. Mr. Soto, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Board of Trustees, HISD community, this evening we have Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Casey.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. So moving on, I know in this item 3, presentations discussion regarding consultants for board governance training and coaching. Mr. Resendez, if you don't mind taking the lead on this part.
Yes, sir. So in our last discussions, everyone, we talked about having this special meeting to allow for presentations and to give you the opportunity to talk with the consultants directly for a few minutes. And we talked about I'll hold, or it looks like we got Mr. Mancha, hopefully.
Yeah, and I apologize, sir. And I did skip over item 2. Did I need to make note that there was no one signed up for public comment?
Oh, yeah, it's a good idea to make note. Yes.
All
sir.
right. Thank you, Mr. Soto, for catching my error there. So we do have no one signed up for public comments. So we do move on to item 3 and back to presentations discussion regarding consultation or consults for board governance. And then I was going to make note of Mr. Mancha. Okay. And then Mr. Mancha has arrived at his 6:20.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. I'd like to apologize to everybody for running late. Thank you.
Fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Resendez, please.
Yeah, yes, sir. So, Mr. Mancha, you didn't miss anything. I was just kind of recapping that in our last couple meetings, we talked about bringing some consultants here to present, and we reached out to the 4 that we talked about. Unfortunately, only 2 of them were able to make it. One of them couldn't commit to starting with the district till actually after August because of prior commitments, and she didn't feel comfortable. She didn't think it would be fair. And then the other one just respectfully declined. And then we have 2. So we have the gentleman here with Moat Casey, and he's going to present. And we talked about a 15-minute presentation and a 10-minute question and answer. And then the next one, I know she's not here yet, or she might be here, but we're going to wait for her, and then she'll present afterwards. Okay, she's here, and that's the one with Tasby.
Perfect.
No, she's not going to come in. She's going to be waiting outside during the first presentation.
All right, perfect. So then the gentleman from Mr. Moat Casey, would you mind coming forward, sir?
And 15 minutes, but it's up to you. We want to give more or less than 10 minutes for question and answer, and again, that's up to you. That was just the information we shared with the presenters to give them an idea.
Okay. So whenever you're ready, sir, you're more than welcome to start your presentation. And I know everyone's received a sheet that you handed out, and we're ready to go when you are, sir.
Good evening. My name is Buck Gilcrease. I am the CEO now of Moat Casey. I am a recovering superintendent, spent 16 years in the superintendency. And so I saw that we have 15 minutes, folks. If it takes me 15 minutes, we're in trouble. So we're going to go through this pretty quick. You can tell obviously that Moat Casey, we're old school. And our goal is to help districts get into some sort of pattern of continuous improvement. And so we believe that, I know I'm here to talk about governance, but we don't believe that governance can be separated from your improvement plan as a district and your desire to focus on what the most important things are in the district and then measure how those are done, while at the same time the board themselves focus upon what their duties are. And then they also keep score of how well they're holding up to those, the beginning of your board policy that says the board shall. There's a whole bunch of things listed there. And we're gonna talk about how we keep the focus on those things that the board shall. Our system also includes some serious conversations with your community. We will ask you to invite a community group, 50 to 75 people. Basically, everybody in your community should be able to look at somebody on that committee and recognize themselves in them so that they know that they're represented. We feel like the beginning of governance is the definition of your beliefs. And so we will work through that with you and the community. And then we will also spend a lot of time just asking questions, and we're going to with your community, with the board, with the senior leader staff. So technically it's a 6-step system. There's 6 meetings. We meet first with the board. We're going to measure how much you trust each other. We're going to measure where you are on your governance and implementation. And then after that, we'll meet with your superintendent and senior leaders. And then that next evening, we'll also meet with your community group and do beliefs. We come back then about 30 to 40 days later, and we meet back with your community group again, and we discuss your mission and vision and make sure that they're what you want it to be, if it needs to be revisited. We visit again with your superintendent and senior leaders, and then finish up with the board after the board's had an opportunity to hear all of that. In this conversation of these 2 board meetings, you will get your ISO and your team of 8 and all of that taken care of as well. But again, we don't feel like that you can separate governance from an improvement plan. And I think that's what sets us apart. So be glad to answer any questions, or I'd be glad to leave you all alone. It's up to you. So.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Sure, go right ahead.
So I haven't been with this on the school board for very long. I was recently reelected. And so I came in and we were under Lone Star governance. Are you going to be able to complement the training that we got with Lone Star governance? Are we going to just are we going to cut clean and start some program, or have you looked at anything that we've done before? Or I just would like to get a feel. There's a couple of things that you said during right now when your presentation, but I just wanted to know where we are or how y'all would approach it. As far as I know, the last 4 years that I've been here, and I know that they were with Lone Star governance prior to my arrival.
So we believe we're a complement to Lone Star governance. We believe actually that Lone Star governance is very good at defining student goals, but we believe there's another balance to that you have to define some staff goals. Your staff needs to be evaluated, and we think also then you have to evaluate your community. I didn't look you up. I will if I come back, but Texas, 70% of the population does not have school-age children. And so we find a way to bring them in and have those conversations. And then the last piece is your finances, the pieces that you deem necessary for transparency with your community. And we call that a balanced scorecard. And so I know that Lone Star governance, you talk about student achievement goals a lot in your agenda. We add your staff goals, how are you building their capacity? Are you growing your staff? And then we add the outside community, and then we add finance to it. So it's very complementary to what you've already done.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Carrillo, go right ahead, ma'am.
what was your name again, sir, respectfully?
It's Buck. First
Buck?
name is Buck. Yes.
Buck, okay. Mr. Buck, I have a question. In regards to your 6-step program, how long is each?
Meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got stuck there,
Um,
sorry.
Each of the board meetings last an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then really it will depend upon you guys, how the conversation goes. The community groups are about an hour and a half, hour 45. And then senior leader and superintendents, we try to schedule 2 hours, but sometimes it takes, more than that. So, but and that's for all 6 meetings.
Okay, my next question is, how long will it take for us to go through the whole program?
And again, that's up to you. We, as soon as we can get it on the schedule, then, whatever start date that is, we like to be finished in about 30 to 45 days from then.
Completely finished from beginning to end?
Correct.
Okay, hi, bye. Okay,
Certainly.
Anyone else have any specific questions? Yes, Mr. Luna.
Piggybacking on the last statement on 30, 45 days, is there like a continuing ed process with your group, or is it just like a one-shot deal?
No, so yes, there is an opportunity for us to continue after the development of the governance scorecard and your district scorecard. Yes, there is an opportunity to continue. It moves into a continuous improvement cycle at that point about how you are meeting all of your goals, not just as a board, but as a district.
Follow up, does that include meeting with the community as well later on?
If we need to. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
All right, second question, I was thinking, you said to complement your LSG. I believe most of us, I know for myself, we're looking forward to going to the next level, so to speak, from LSG, because we seem to like plateaued. So we're trying to see what the next step would be for us and what strategies or innovative strategies, or you say what makes you different. But why should we pick your company to help us get to the next level? So what are some examples or strategies or other districts you work with?
So we're working with about 110 districts in this work right now across the state. So again, I don't really like comparing this to LSG because we don't feel like there is a comparison. We have nothing against LSG. Think has some strengths. We just feel like that governance can't be separated from your goals and whether or not you're meeting your goals on a regular basis. And governance can't be separated from communication and communication with the board and with the community. And so if you'd like some references, I'll be glad. I saw a couple of you at TASB, I think. Yeah. I mean, if you would like references, we can get you references of people that talk about how the process works.
All right, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
So, Ms. Cavazos.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. So you speak a lot about communication with the community, communication with our staff goals, student goals. And I hear a little bit of community goals because it is a fact that our community assumes the role of a board member is much more than they think it is. So I do like that piece. I don't hear you say, and maybe because it hasn't been brought up, communication with the board. This district has a long history of a board not staying in their lane. And some of us still have, on occasion, tend to get out of that lane. So can you give
That never
me-
happens anywhere.
Yes.
by the way.
And that's why I assume Mr. Luna's question is, is there an opportunity for continuous education for the board?
So, yeah, let me, I obviously didn't say it clearly enough, but we feel like you have to develop a cadence of communication, a cadence of accountability between your senior leaders, your tactical team, the people that are charged with implementing your strategy. The team of 8 is responsible for the strategy, and then the superintendent and his team are responsible for the tactics that are used to put that. But then I will say this, in my opinion, most board members that get out of the strategic role are because they're not being provided information from the tactical role that they need in order to feel comfortable. We actually have some points where we will talk to you about how to ask questions from the strategic role instead of from the tactical or operational role. And so we also will encourage you to continue meeting with your community group and give them the same updates that the board's getting on a regular basis, and let them have an opportunity to ask questions as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mr. Soto, you had something to share? Or
Yes,
question?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Gilchrist, we're about to start strategic planning starting in August. How would your company and our strategic planning committees and teams work together hand in hand?
Are you using another?
We're using our the education service, Service Center Region 13.
Oh, okay. 13 or 20?
13.
All right. So we
Out of
partner with 20 for this program. We would have to sit and visit with them and see how that operates. It's a bunch of old superintendents that put this deal together with the help of a couple of board members. But the whole point was we were all very frustrated with our strategic plans because they just seemed to be a list of activities and no way to measure it. And so our focus is on measure. So we won't get in the way of them. And I would bet that they're going to put together, a lot of conversation about what your strategies are. But we're going to focus on how you're going to measure those in the interim and then at the end. So.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Carrillo.
Mr. Beck, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just piggybacking on Mrs. Cavazos' question in regards to our LSG, we are required to do this every year. So will you be providing those services for us in the future, or do we have to go out and seek another RFQ for governance?
No, we will stay with you as long as you want us to. We work with boards. We've been told that we're just like a bad habit. You can't get rid of us. So we just kind of hang out and stay. I will say this too. We're very selective. We don't take just any school district to work with, because we feel like it is a long-term relationship that we are developing, and that it's important for us to have that relationship in an ongoing way. So.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Dr. Castleberry.
How long has Moat Casey been in this line of work?
In some form or fashion, about 7 or 8 years. But really in the last 4 years have we moved into the level that we are now. Good to see you, by the way. So.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Ortiz.
I have a couple of questions. One, Mr. Gilchrist, Moat Casey currently is working with the school district in what capacity? Don't we have?
Yeah, we offer, I visited with your CFO earlier. We offer assistance with your revenue estimation, truth and taxation, those things in your budget piece of it. I believe we're also beginning a journey with some staffing studies or program studies. And so, and the accountability study as well. Yes. So.
And that's very good to hear. And I like the what you mentioned about the finances, our budget estimates and our accountability and what we're going to be doing in the future, because, you know, we have to be accountable to TA or Dr. Castleberry. And so I think that was a component that wasn't really part of a LSG. And so it was, it's nice to hear that that's a component that y'all offer as part of your plan, your strategic goals, your plans. And I like that it's multifaceted. It's not just us. So thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Mancha?
I really don't have a question. I just have more of a comment. I wish a lot more of my colleagues would have gone to y'all's presentation. It was pretty exciting and pretty interesting. You use a lot of history, you know, a lot of knowledge, a lot of pinpoints. When y'all present to us, will it be a group or it be an individual? Because that day y'all did the presentation at TASB, it was 3 of y'all.
It's so we think 1 is good. We think 2 is 10 times better. And so we try to bring at least 2 through this process. Just because when somebody's talking, the other person's listening. And that's important. You know, I think we said this in the presentation. We firmly believe that a learning organization is a listening organization. And that means you're listening to your people that make up that organization. So
Thank you, sir. That's what I wanted to ask mainly was, is it going to be a 1 person? Or is it going to be 2 people? Because I really enjoyed, I mean, I learned a lot just for that little hour that I was there. I was very impressed, and thank you. You and the young lady and the gentleman that were there were on the ball. So it was pretty neat.
well, we're retired, so we're a little unplugged every now and then. So
Anyone else? Ms. Ortiz, do you have anything else or? I don't know if you were. No? Okay. Anyone else? Dr. Castleberry, please.
I think I have another question. So your effort to cause the board to focus on student outcomes comes from the goals that the board sets and the goals that the staff sets and the processes for evaluating those goals.
that's
Is that
correct.
true?
Yes. But we don't think it's just student outcomes. We think you ought to have goals for your staff capacity outcomes. We ought to have goals for how we interact with the community, and we ought to have financial goals. We think it's more than just students are obviously what we're all about, but within this organization, there's a bunch of different customers, right? And the students are the customers of the teachers, especially, but the teachers are the customers of your campus leaders. And your campus leaders are the customers of your central office. And so, and then everybody's, you know, your external community is a large customer as well. So we like to make sure everybody is involved. We call it balanced. It's based on Kaplan's work of a balanced scorecard, and that's how we come about. So, and if you have insomnia, I'll share with you all the research, because most people aren't nerds like us and read that stuff. So.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? Ms. Faria?
Chair, I just have one more question. How many leaders do you have working with you?
How many in this part?
Yes.
Well, so Moat Casey itself, we have about 20 employees. In this part, we have, gosh, I got to count. 1, 2, 3,
Governance.
4, 5, 6, 7 of us in some form or fashion.
Thank you, sir.
We kind of, y'all will probably be stuck with me for sure, because we do it kind of by geography, if that makes sense. And so I live a couple hours north of here. So we kind of divide it up that way.
Yeah, Dr. Castleberry, go right ahead, man.
Is it too early to talk about cost to the district?
That's up to you.
Well, tell us about cost.
Okay. So it's based on district size. And so a district this size is going to be I remember correct, $10,500 plus expenses.
And that's for.
That gets you to the point where you gets all your governance, your board training taken care of, and it gets an adoption of a scorecard at the board level. And we can go, so our scorecard is 5 columns. And the first column are those 4 priorities I keep talking about: student outcomes, staff outcomes, community outcomes, financial outcomes. The second column then is your strategic objectives. What is it that you want to accomplish in each of those 4 areas? We feel like those first 2 columns belong to the board and the superintendent, the team of 8. Then the next column is what are your strategic actions to get those things done? We feel like that instead of dropping it as a board, you got to give your superintendent and his team the ability to maneuver when needed. You're not changing the goals, but you might have to change what you're doing to accomplish those goals. And then we think the 4th column is what we call leading indicators, the interim indicators. And then the 5th column is lagging. And it's similar to Lone Star, and it's X to Y by Z in those goals. But we feel like that if you don't have the progress measures, the interim measurement, that, you know, at the end of when you take the STAR test, if in my opinion is the STAR test, all you can do is hold an autopsy, right? Because it's already done. Everything's in the book. So we think you should be doing stuff as you go through the year, and then those things should be reported to the board on a monthly basis, and then back to the community on a monthly basis. And I have taken up more of my time. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, sir.
Nope.
I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
No, Mr. Moreno, I just think that it's just multifaceted what you are presenting. And I just find it extremely interesting how your approach is. And I'm sorry that we took up so
No,
much
that's-
time. We asked a lot of questions, but we appreciate your time. I know that I did, and it gave me some insight on a couple of things. I appreciate it.
You know, you put introduction on a piece of paper and I can talk for 2 hours. So it's all good.
Oh, well, I know I haven't had an opportunity to ask questions. I have some that I can piggyback, but I also know that we have Miss Casey here. And I know a lot of our LSG initial components revolved around her communicating with our coach. Miss Casey, right now, I'd like to invite you if you have any questions or how it will relate to your position. I don't know if there's something, Mr. Soto, that we can.
Questions. What I think though on the reporting is it would change our reporting by each of the goals. So instead of hearing, I don't think you hear academic necessarily every month. I think you report out on each metric each month. And so you have different departments reporting from what from what I gather. I mean, but that's just what I gather. And we are having a strategic planning. So I am curious how that would overlap. But I think we'd walk away with our plan, our goals, our GPMs, our reporting times, and then we would follow that monthly like we do LSG. This is kind of our game plan, and then we would implement all year. That's the way I'm interpreting. Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've gathered. I know, hearing first, it's pretty much going through the process again from LSG. We started LSG probably about May 2018. So roughly just maybe 6-7 months prior to most of us being here on this team. But I know a lot of it had to do with a retreat, like 3 days of just nonstop 9 hours. That was just, pretty intense. But at the same time, when you were able to establish a strategic planning that's multifaceted, as y'all mentioned, it is intriguing to see the possibilities of how we can layer it. Now, one thing obviously here, we do have a conservator that's a part of the team. How do you guys work with someone like Dr. Castleberry? How is that role going to work?
Well, we work with a handful of districts that have a conservator right now. So it's fine. I mean, yeah, and we've known each other for a few years, so known who each other is, I think. So the conservator, it can be such an asset and a blessing to a district if you use it the way it's supposed to be used. If you fight it, it's not so much of a blessing, right? So we have, back to your point, we had one district that we walked away from because they just wanted to fight their conservator. And we're not interested in that.
And I believe here at this team, when we were open to being better, and we're excited at the possibility of being able to forge a future where the focus is not just on meeting the needs of our kids, but also finding ways to make them lifelong and established learners and make them want to be proud to reside where we live. And that's something that I know our whole team is beholden to. But ultimately, I know with all the goals that we have, with it being so specific, because I know here at a point where we got accustomed to was monthly, everything this, everything that, and it revolved around things that sometimes we felt we didn't have an actual role in, directly, because we had, the indirect, the direct, those type of things, and the continuous support. So when it comes to you guys providing that safety net and that support and that guidance, how do y'all navigate through that, especially as you kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but when you have, the initial 60 days is pretty much when we're doing all the establishment of the routines, the practices, best practices and goals. So pretty much it's like, it's putting back the accountability on us. Is that what's happening? Because after the scorecard's established, it's like, you guys got to take care of this. We'll come back and help you fine tune it, but it's really on you. If you don't follow it, then you're deviating from it. And when we come back to support y'all, it's going to be noted. Is that how it goes?
So yeah, what you're talking about is being in the strategic role with which is the team of 8 or 9 is in that strategic role, right? And so the questions that you ask can either get down into that tactical or operational role. Okay, so why did we paint the girls' locker room yellow? That's an operational question, right? The real question from a strategic point of view is, Mr. Superintendent, please explain to me the process, the system we have for selecting paint color for our locker rooms. So that's the difference between the two. And so you get to keep asking those strategic questions of your tactical team. And then it's their responsibility to give you the information that you need.
And I think that's a component that's a little bit refreshing because it does provide us a little bit more guidance. And I think the fact that you guys had not necessarily, because there's other holistic approaches that you look at LSG, and not to compare it as well, but the fact that you're saying superintendents, principals, I mean, you guys have fairly recent experience, and I'm sure some of them did as well. But even just the terminology just seems more practical to me. And to me, that's helpful because not everyone on this team is acutely aware of every acronym, of every term that's shared with. But if you put it in a practical sense, oh, okay, I should ask like this, or hey, this is what I should have. That to me is really explicit and it's helpful. And then I don't know if anybody had anything else. Dr. Castleberry, was there anything else you wanted to ask? I know the last piece is, we'll kind of confer, right, Tony? And then we'll still have you guys available at the end if we had anything additional to ask or.
That's up to you all. If you wanted to ask him to stay, or if you want to bring him back, or if you want to talk as a team and decide from there. But we do have the other presenter out there waiting. And I don't know if we want to keep Mr. Gilchrist waiting too long,
But I'll answer my phone. Y'all have my cell number.
I do have his cell
Okay,
number.
correct.
Yeah,
So
we can
I'll
call.
answer.
All right.
And you
Well,
guys have my card, I believe.
we have your packet for sure.
Oh,
I have your cell number though.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time, Mr. Gilchrist, and we'll definitely be
You
very
bet.
conscientious of your time as well. Yes, Mr. Resendez, sorry.
How soon, if you're selected, how soon could you start?
Just work with our calendar and your calendar. So, I mean, it's a that's a conversation that the superintendent will direct.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I
right.
appreciate your time.
You know,
I definitely do.
I think I added it up at one time and I'm over 500 board meetings that I've attended in my life. So I'm not going to stay for the rest of this one. So okay, just y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I think I got all y'all beat. I got all y'all beat on board meetings, let me tell you. Sir, did you want to have a discussion before we bring in the other one, or you want to bring the other one in?
I don't know. How does the team want to go about it? Would y'all like to go? I mean, it's kind of like a session. Okay.
Everything is fresh right now in my mind on the presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's
All right.
my opinion.
So proceed with the next group. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Moreno, I just have a really quick question.
Yes, ma'am. No, when we just went ahead and it was,
We're still live, so we still need to put on your mic.
yeah, so so just for, context, when we went forward and back in May 2018, it was more of the, hey, this is an opportunity to show TEA that we are committed to student outcomes and student goals. And that's why we went forward as a team. And I believe at that time, Mr. Mancha was the board president. So no, we didn't have a process. We just, we asked them to come in.
It was kind of suggested for us to go or else
go that
consequences. So
We were told.
Y'all might not have had a lot of options or time.
No, we didn't even know there was other options. Hello. I think we're ready for you when you're ready, ma'am.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, no, I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Carrillo, let's
We have
check
Miss
out.
Carrillo, so I know we're still
If you can wait a few seconds.
yeah. So she's setting everything up, so we'll wait patiently. Thank you, sir. All right, well, welcome back, Ms. Carrillo. So Ms. Orozco, as soon as you're ready, ma'am, you're more than welcome to take the podium and take the lead on presenting them.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Esperanza Orozco, and I'm a TASB board consultant. And I'm going to share some information with you. Let's make sure that this is on and clicking. Okay, so first I want to share some information about myself. I know when a board is working with a consultant, it is so important that your personalities match up, that you feel comfortable working with that consultant and moving forward. So I'm going to share some information with you and I'll just click it one at a time. Okay, so I'm actually from San Antonio. I graduated from the Edgewood Independent School District, proud graduate from there. And I have a Master of Education from Texas State University. And I got my bachelor's at University of the Incarnate Word here in San Antonio as well. I am still certified EC through 4 bilingual. And just a little information about the things that I have done. I am a current sitting board member serving my 3rd term. I have been president, vice president, and secretary. Our district is around 23,000 students. So I've had the opportunity to continue my work there. I was also a teacher of that district for 11 years and union president for 7 years. I am on the Hays County Child Protective Board. I am the founder of our Hays Hope to Go program, which is a food supplement program for the students in Hays CISD. I am also a founder of our Hays CISD Clothes Closet, removing clothing barriers for our students. I have served on the Kyle Library Board. Was a former bilingual dual language teacher. I also was president of Community Action of Central Texas for about 15 years. I'm also Friends of the Kyle Library Board and was a TABE board member as well. So those are some of the organizations that I have belonged to and have participated in. So I want to talk a little bit about my specialty. These are some of the things that I do under TASB. I work with Team of 8. So I travel all over the state of Texas, working with small boards, medium boards, and large boards, working on mission, vision, board operating procedures, board self-evaluation, superintendent evaluation, for the Team of 8, but also for board officers specifically and how to facilitate a superintendent evaluation. These are some of the other things that I do. I do facilitate our Board Officer Institute. I've had the pleasure to work with several of you with our Board Officer Institute program. I also work with new board members as well and do remote coaching with board members from different districts. So I want to talk a little bit about my philosophy and words to live by. One thing that I always talk about is actions speak louder than words. And I knew as a teacher in my district, I wanted to take action. Union president, I wanted to take action. It wasn't enough just to see problems, but making sure to find solutions. So this is very important to my line of work, making sure that I work with board members and talk about, okay, what are some of the solutions we can come up with? What can we do to accomplish this together? What can you do in your team to make sure that you're moving forward? So this one is very important to me and something that I instill in my children and my students and my fellow board members. The other one is focus on what you can control. That was very important, especially during the pandemic as a board member, when we were encountering all kinds of controversy, right? We had to deal with a lot of that. And we talked about what can we control? And we need to make sure to focus on the things that are within our control and how we can move forward. This is just an opportunity, not just a challenge, but an opportunity. And again, that is my philosophy in all of my work that I do. And of course, this is another favorite of mine. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. It's so important to talk about what do you stand for? What do you believe in? What are you willing to do to get it accomplished? Again, that is something that was in my classroom and that has carried out. So that's just a little of information about me. One of the things that I want to focus on is the mission of public education. The mission of the public education system of this state is to ensure that all Texas children have access to a quality education that enables them to achieve their potential and fully participate now and in the future in the social, economic, and educational opportunities of our state and nation. And coming from the Edgewood district, we were the poorest district back then when I was in the Edgewood district. I knew that if I believed, I could accomplish. My motto for my classroom also was "Si se puede." And I was born to make sure to do something, to make those changes. So coming from that district, coming and being in the district that I am and serving the population of students, of low socioeconomic students, and in my bilingual classes, I made sure to instill that as well. I knew the priority of public ed was to make sure that all students were equipped with the tools they needed to be successful in college, career, or military. Now, the Board of Trustees is a governing body for Texas public schools. And to effectively meet those challenges of public education, school boards and superintendents must function together as a governance leadership team. I will tell you that when I first started on the board, we did have a low-performing schools. We had 3 low-performing schools. We had a dysfunctional board. And we needed to move forward. And the only way we could do that is if we worked cohesively together to move our district forward and to make sure that we were laser focused on student achievement for all our students. That was really important. So having that year and then having to reset, we did a reset and a refresh with our new superintendent. We went from a dysfunctional district and board to a highly functional district and an honor board in the state of Texas. That was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but we knew we had to make that change in order to create those opportunities for our students and to put our students first. We had to set aside egos. We had to set aside negativity and move forward for the sake of our children. So, it's going a little bit too fast. Can you go back? Since the clicker's not working, I guess. Okay, so go back. Let me see, go back one more just to make sure. Okay, you can go forward to the arrows. Okay, so this is what happens. I've definitely been here and I work with a lot of boards that have been here too. There is a team of 8 and they're going in so many different directions. Everybody has a different agenda going in different ways. Well, when you all are moving in so many different directions, it is hard to get anything accomplished. So I have been through there. I have seen the impact of these folks moving in all different directions and seeing how we fail our kids when we do that. So when you have this going on, and we'll move to the next slide, you'll see it. There's evidence of it. You'll see it in your high turnover. You will see it in low morale. You will see it in being a mediocre at best district. You will see it in your lack of student achievement. You will see it and you will feel it. And I had that opportunity to experience that. And I don't want anyone else to be able to experience that because that is not something positive for our students. And we need to keep our students first in all of this. Okay. So we know that board service matters. It does have an impact. So the negative has an impact on student achievement and how great your district can work. And the positive has an impact as well. So when you're working cohesively as a team for the better good, for the good of all your students, you will reap those rewards. And again, I have experienced it. When it was all negative, we were all going in different ways. We had those 3 campuses that were need improvements. When we made that shift and began to cultivate trust on our board with our superintendent as a true team of 8, we were able to see the positive effects on our school district. We were able to get those IR campuses out of IR. We were laser focused to make sure that we were being equitable and making sure to equip every campus with what they needed to be successful. And that looks different for our 24, 26 campuses. And so it does have positive effects as well. So the research shows that you do make a difference as a board member. Your behavior, your mindset, your philosophy will make that difference. So it is important that you worked as a team of 8, and we saw what a huge difference it made. Okay, and the school board's authority is something that needs to be reminded of, and even experienced board members like myself who's serving my 3rd term, I still bring it up and I still talk about it and need a reminder and a refresh as well, just like our other board members. Remembering that it's so important that trustees as a body corporate have that exclusive power to govern and oversee the management of the public schools of the district, and making sure that you work as a body corporate as well. And once a decision has been made, you support the will of the board and move forward together. Okay, so some of the things that I focus on when I'm working with the board is our board roles, making sure that everybody's clear about what our roles and responsibilities are. So 5 of the things that I focus on are, and we'll go to the first one, responsible school governance, which I go into depth about. High expectations, making sure that not only are we responsible to set high expectations for our students and for our district, but of ourselves as well as board members. We can move that needle. So we need to have those high expectations of ourselves as well. Setting up those conditions for success. I talk to board members about this all the time as they go through Board Officer Institute and training with me, making sure you set the conditions for success for your board and for your district and for your superintendent and staff. It is so important that if you set a goal, then you prioritize what you value. Then you need to set up those conditions for success. So we will talk about examples of what this looks like and go more in depth, like I said, in all of these 5 when I work with the board. The next one is district accountability, being accountable of what is happening and progress monitoring what is happening in your district, making sure that you're asking those questions when you're looking at data, especially things like HB3 that we are mandated to look at. That's just one part of it with early literacy, early math, and CCMR. Now with the refresh of the accountability system, it's critical. It's more than ever to make sure that we are monitoring and talking, having those discussions in our community as well. One of our jobs as a board member is to make sure that we are engaging and empowering our community. So they need to be aware of what it looks like. Yes, it's not comparing from last year to this year. It's totally different because of this refresh. But having those discussions, not being reactive, but talking about the accountability and what we can do moving forward. Okay, there is a new system in place. Yes, we might have dropped down, but what is the plan to move our district forward? Not just complaining about what we were dealt, but actually what is our plan of action and addressing it? And then that community engagement piece that I love so much. Being able to engage your community in different ways. And, as I travel throughout the state of Texas, I hear from small, medium, large, we have so much trouble engaging our community, getting people to show up, getting people to speak out or serve on committees. I get it. We have that struggle as well. We have that challenge as well. But we need to push ourselves a little more to think outside of the box to try to get folks committed and into our schools. It is their school, their students, our community. And together we are stronger when we have that community buy-in, when we have that feedback, and when we are using our site-based decision-making on these committees. Okay, so I'm going to talk about an example of a framework that I have done for some boards. Now, every board is different. So before I work with a board, I will survey the board to see what they need, right? We do a little board self-evaluation, talk about what is really missing or how can we really take you to the next level, right? You have grown so much from where you were. How can we grow and stretch you some more? So this is just an example of a training framework that I have done, but again, it can be in a different order depending on your needs and wants. So one of the first sessions that I do is talk about board roles and responsibilities. We need to be clear, and we cannot assume that people truly understand the roles and responsibility of a board member. Even experienced board members need a refresher, and I see it all the time. You know, you think, oh, I've been on the board for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but you're doing that. That's not our board role. That's not our responsibility. That is micromanagement, if you will, in that example. So it's so important to really understand board roles and responsibilities. So I like to work on different scenarios to kind of address this and act it out and talk about it. And what does that sound like? What does it look like? What does it feel like to make sure that you are following the appropriate roles and responsibilities as a board member? The other thing, go back because I'm going to go through each one. So the other thing that I do is work on a social contract. The social contract really was a turner for us. It was definitely something that set us on the right path. We did not have trust. We did not have a solid foundation back then. So when our new superintendent came on board, he said, let's do a social contract, because we haven't really talked about the expectations of each other as a team of 8. We can talk about the expectations of what we want from the superintendent, but what is our behavior going to look like as well? What are the expectations we have of each other and of ourselves? So social contract is a really nice piece that I have used with lots of boards, and that we continue to use and review annually to make sure we're on the same page. And it's not enough just to do, if we just use the golden rule and treat everybody like I want to be treated, then we're good. Well, actually, that doesn't apply anymore. It's the platinum rule that applies. Treat people how they want to be treated. But you don't know that. When we're caught up in business meetings and getting that agenda done and adopting budgets, we don't have time to really have that discussion. So we assume a lot of things from our fellow board members. And we need to stop, take a breath, and really talk about what that looks like. What does respect look like? What does it sound like for me? So having that discussion is really eye-opening for a lot of board members, and then developing that social contract. The other thing is making sure you review your board operating procedures annually. And that's something that I work with, and I'm able to put together board operating procedures based on the needs of the board. And then a simple board member's guide to the superintendent evaluation process. You will be very surprised, as I was, about how many folks are not doing a superintendent evaluation correctly. It's really eye-opening to see that when I go to different boards, and they might have 20 goals for their superintendent, and one of them is they are dressed professionally. It's really eye-opening. People are in different places when it comes to knowing the process of a superintendent evaluation. So I will do an overview and talk about it, how the process looks, what it sounds like, what it looks like, and then we can dive a little deeper with the logistics of a superintendent evaluation. I have had a request for that a lot. Many places do superintendent evaluation in open session. Well, superintendent evaluation should be done in closed session with an action at an open session. However, not everybody is doing that. So making sure we understand the logistics of what a superintendent evaluation process looks like. And then, of course, setting those board goals are important, making sure they are SMART goals that are measurable, that are attainable, and definitely within 3 to 5 goals, not having 10 goals to deal with. And making sure that your evaluation tool is aligned to your district goals. That's another thing that we see that is missing. As I've come off of summer leadership conferences in Fort Worth and in San Antonio, these classes are very popular because people weren't aware that they should be aligned, that those district goals should be aligned with your superintendent evaluation. They should not be, we have these district goals and we have different goals for our superintendent, making sure there is an alignment of that with your overarching goals and then your more performance indicators that go under those goals based on your superintendent's expertise that fills that in, right? And then finalizing that evaluation tool. I also do remote coaching, as I have coached many of you all. I do remote coaching and in-person coaching. I'm just down the road in Kyle, Texas, so just about an hour away. So my family's still here in San Antonio, so we visit often. Okay. And when you have all of these things in place, you can move in the right direction together and be successful. Be a cohesive team of 8 that will do right by your students, that will do right by your community. And then here's my contact information, my cell phone, and my email address. Okay, well, that was an overview of some of the things that I do, and I would love to entertain some questions.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Orozco. Anyone like to share any feedback or any questions or?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go right ahead, Ms. Cavazos.
Ms. Orozco, although we're not going to compare ourselves to any other board, you talk about you walked into a dysfunctional board and you saw the results of that in your community and in the schools. Them not being successful because the board was not being successful. How long did it take? And I know I'm not going to compare ourselves to any other board, but how long did you all as a board, following the guidelines that you will coach us if we decide to go with your with you as our coach, how long did that take? And I guess what I'm saying is, did you see immediate results once the board was on board? Did that trickle down to those results in the schools and students and community?
Well, we did not use this guideline, so it took us a minute. It actually took probably about 1.5 years to really get to where we needed to be in regards to actually setting a foundation and understanding that we were dysfunctional and it was not best for kids. So it took us 1.5 years. And then we made a lot of changes, did a reset, refresh, and were able to put egos to the side and work on and focus on students. And once we changed our mindset and our philosophy, then we were able to move ahead. So within the next year, we were able to move some of those campuses out of IR, of needs improvement. Our turnover went down. It actually has increased. It was at 18% and it decreased to 12% with our superintendent. And having a positive mindset and approach, it really changed things.
And another question, if I may, Mr. Chair, community engagement, you talk about that. Have you all been successful? And I know this is your board, but you're a coach. So do you see that what you've implemented in your coaching skills with other boards, do you see an increase in community engagement so that they can learn what the true role of a board member is?
I think we have definitely made some huge strides, and I'm really excited about one of the things that we did and I did as a board member was we had a facilities bond oversight committee. It was relatively small. Only certain people were invited to be in it. However, that changed with our mindset. And we had one person who was very critical of the district and of the board and would often come and be very upset about our bonds or what we were doing. And before, he was not listened to. He was like shut out. And so I went up to him and I said, you know what? I'm going to appoint you to this committee. And he's like, what? You're going to appoint me? Nobody even returns my calls or emails. And I said, that's not okay. I'm going to appoint you as my committee member to be on there because everybody deserves to be heard, regardless if they agree or disagree with you. But when you let people have a voice at the table, they're able to get some buy-in, right? They're able to feel included, and everybody wants their voice to be heard. So we started doing that, and we really changed the face of the committee. It wasn't just the people that were going to agree with the superintendent and with his staff. It was going to be people that represented different areas of our community, whether they agreed with bonds or not. And they started working together and said, okay, this is what I can live with. This is what I cannot live with, but started in that engagement piece. That was very significant for us.
Thank you, Ms. Orozco.
Thank you, Ms. Cavazos. Anyone else like to entertain some questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Carrillo, go right ahead.
Hello, Ms. Orozco. I do have a couple of questions. How many districts have you worked with?
Probably between 40 and 60.
Okay, and my next question is how long is the program? Like if we were to start with you, how long will it take for us to finish?
Well, it's not a one size fits all. So it depends on what your needs are and what you're looking for. If you need extensive support or if you need, to gradually release, right? So I worked with one board for about 6 months. I went out there and worked once a month with their team to get everything in place and give them a strong foundation for them to move forward together. I have worked with other boards. They just needed maybe 2 sessions. So it really is tailored to what you need and what you see is still lacking or what you still you want to see. Okay, what is the opportunity for us to grow and get better, right? I think we can still grow a little bit in this area and stretch ourselves. So it really does depend on your board.
Thank you, Ms. Orozco.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Dr. Casper.
Ms. Roscoe, you've focused a lot on the team of 8. And I'm wondering, when you coach individuals, as you've indicated you've done with some of these board members, do you reach out to the superintendent to bring him into the loop about what you're doing with those board members so that he's not aware?
I work with superintendents and board officers specifically. If I need to work with all of them, I work with individual board members. The superintendent may or may not be aware of them reaching out. It depends. Some of them are signed up for my Board Officer Institute and they continue. Part of that program is actually remote coaching. So everybody's aware of what that entails, but the information or the coaching that I do with an individual board member is not something that I share out with others. That is our conversation unless they decide to share that out or implement it. And I know many board members do that. They'll say, oh, this is what I learned in remote coaching, or this is what I learned at Board Officer Institute, and use those best practices because they should be best practices to help make a more cohesive team.
So you don't think it's critical for the superintendent to be aware of what's going on?
Well, when I am brought on board, the superintendent is aware that I am working with individual board members, but I do not share information that is conveyed between a board member and myself. I do not report anything to the superintendent. Now, if the superintendent wants to reach out to that board member and say, hey, how's it going? What are your coaching sessions like? I mean, that's something between them. They can also be invited into the coaching session. And I've done that where I've had a board president say, hey, I want some coaching here and I want to practice with my superintendent, like how to facilitate a meeting. So I'll bring them both on board and we'll work through that.
Anyone else? Dr. Casper, anything further? Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Carrillo?
Just have one more question. It's more of yes, one more question. What inspired you to come to want to work for Harlandale?
Well, I am from San Antonio and I used to live down the road from you all. I have worked with several of you all during Board Officer Institute. So I know about your district. I have seen your videos of your meetings. I have looked at your agendas and I love working with different boards from all ranges, but I definitely take an interest when my students, if you will, take a course. I usually work with most of their boards afterwards.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes, Dr.
I
Casper.
guess I would ask the question about cost. So talk about cost for the district being involved with you in this effort.
I actually offered my services for free. So there's that. Because TASB does believe in working with boards and providing these services. So that's why I did receive approval to work with Harlandale for free at no charge because of my vested interest in making boards successful and TASB wanting every board to be as strong as they can be, being a strong team of 8 and being student focused on that achievement. We all want our 5.5 million students to be the best they can be for the state of Texas and to be great global citizens.
Yes, Mr. Luna, please.
Yes, being a student of Ms. Orozco and really being able to use that expertise on this board, I just never worked with you as a whole board situation, a team of 8. So that's new to me. That'd be new to me. But I think your enthusiasm, your positiveness really is able something that is infectious, hopefully enough to this board that we will be doing that to the community. I think that's what this community needs. And I always tell Mr. Soto that that's how we have to market. What came to mind right now is we need to market the goodness of what we do, the greatness that we do here, and not just the numbers, because I know the numbers are not that good. 63% passing math, 50%. That doesn't sound good. And I know that doesn't sound good at TA, and the letter grades either. But if we just focus on what we can do, our capacity to improve our kids and what they can do and what they can be, and then getting partnerships with TASB, getting partnerships with the community, it just can snowball into a positive place. And that's what we need coaching for. I think that's what you can bring, especially if it's free. But honestly, that's what we need here because we have the brains, we have the resources, we have the structure here. We just need that inspiration to keep going and do better. That's the other word, like the big word I use. We need to get better because I live in this district. I worked in this district. You know my story a little bit. And we just need to get together moving forward. And that's what we had to do when we closed schools. I told the community we needed to move forward and to support us. And so we need to also build ourselves, but not just build ourselves, but build everyone that comes into this building and give them inspiration, give them positive, give them hope.
Well, and as board members, we are the district ambassadors, right? It is our job to make sure to be positive. Doesn't mean you deny there's issues going on. It's not about how you frame it. We might have some challenges here, but this is what we're doing to address it. We're not hiding under a rock about it. We know what the challenges are, but let's create an opportunity out of them. And that's what I did and implemented in my district. And a lot of the boards that I'm working with are doing the same thing. It's all about your mindset and your framing. And making sure to talk about all the positive things going on and the action you're taking to make those changes to move forward.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? So I know, Ms. Orozco, I appreciate your time. I have a few questions, or Ms. Ortiz, did you have questions?
I
Okay,
did.
Go ahead.
I
ma'am.
just, I appreciate that you, were very frank about how long it took your school board, to move forward. What was it, 16 to 18 months? I do like that you said that, you'd like to set board goals that are attainable. I really like that statement because I think that it's really important that the board knows that it's not nebulous, if you will. There's the goal post keeps getting moved further back and further back and further back. And so we don't know that, okay, if you're playing a game of football, it's only 100 yards. You can go from one goalpost to another, but we're never getting there. The alignment of goals, how does that trickle down from us to the superintendent to the staff? Because in Lone Star Governance, we saw presentations that there would be progress measures that would come that we would see, and that was what y'all put together through Lone Star Governance, or they were somewhat mirrored. Miss Casey is here and she does our school stuff, that those presentations or her staff. I just wanted to ask you, how does that, or is it just the team of 8 that you focus on?
So your district goals should be aligned, right, all the way through. So as a district, you're working on certain goals. Those are the goals that you set. You set 3 to 5 goals, and that is what you all work on. You have overarching goals. For example, student achievement, that's one of our goals, student achievement. And under that, and we should be working as a team of 8 to come up with those priorities. What are going to be our main goals? Because our goals is that bridge, right? From like where we are currently and what we can be, what our vision is. The goals will take us there. Right? That's really important. So as a team of 8, we prioritize and say, for example, we're going to do student achievement, and we write out our overarching goal. And we do one for safety and security, because safety and security is paramount. That's one of our other goals. Maybe your third goal is board, staff, community relations. Those are your 3 big goals. Those are fleshed out. And then you go to your educational expert, and that's your superintendent. And you say, superintendent, these are our overarching goals. This is what we're looking at, maybe early literacy, maybe decreasing the dropout rate, maybe some general ideas. Superintendent goes back with their staff and says, okay, what is going to show that we met that goal, right? So based on data, for example, let's do the decreasing the dropout rate. Well, our dropout rate is at 15%. We want to decrease that. We are committed to decreasing that. So your superintendent, based on data, goes and looks, what is the historical data that shows our trend line? What is that trend line? Well, we've only been decreasing by 2%. So is it reasonable to say, let's decrease by 15% all in 1 year? Absolutely not. You have to look at your historical data in order to set those measurables. So then he will set the measurable as, okay, we did 2% for the past 2 years. We're going to stretch a little bit. And this year we're going to decrease by 2.5 or by 3%. And that's what you measure, right? But your district goals, and that's just an example, your district goals should go all the way down. Now, it's important to know that with HB3, it is required to have your campus goals, right? So you want to make sure that that is incorporated in there as well, in under one of those overarching goals, because you want to have that alignment. There should not be that disconnect between the campus and the district goals. So you want to make sure that it does trickle down.
Ms. Cavazos, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Oh my God, my mind went blank. Okay, so you serve on the board and you also coach boards. What has been the biggest challenge as a coach
as your role as a coach while you're in your role of a trustee?
It hasn't, and actually has been an opportunity, right? Because I is traveling all over the state, I get to see the good, the bad, the ugly. And I take all the good stuff and I bring it back to my district. And one of the prime examples of that is our board operating procedures. We used to have like a little rinky-dink 5-page board operating procedures. And now we have such a beautiful, robust board operating procedures that we implemented. And that's because of all the things I've gathered, all those good things, and I brought them back. So it has been a positive for our team for the past several years that I've been doing both TASB board consultant and as a board member. I've been able to say to our team, oh, everybody stop right now. When I was president, I was doing superintendent evaluation wrong. I was doing it like the person before me and the person before them. So I told our president and our team, I said, I did it wrong. And president, this is the way you do it. Showed the president how to do it correctly and said, I need you to be better than me. But you always did it. I know I did it wrong. I need you to be better, right? Because when you know better, you do better. And that's what I bring to my team of 8 of all the things that I have learned and done being a board consultant. Thank you, Mrs. Orozco.
Anyone else have any questions? I have a few questions, Ms. Orozco, if you don't mind. First is, it's evident we do have a conservator. How would that align with working with this team? How is that seen, or how is that enacted?
Well, I would need to read your plan, right? Your plan to exit under conservator, and read that and take that to heart. I know one of the things that I did working with several board members on this team was say, okay, what is going to supersede everything above all the best practices that I'm teaching you is what your conservator is telling you, because they're the ones who are going to exit you out of being under that conservatorship, right? So if they're telling you this is what needs to happen, right? To make sure that you get to where you need to be. So I can tell you best practices and work with you. And I think working with a conservator, I would have to definitely talk and visit with your conservator to see what their plan is, right? What it looks like, and see where does it meet? Where is their alignment there, right?
And I know there's some things that we've got it in the practice of in regards to our model of LSG, roughly going on 5 years of working within that instrument. How do we continue on with an evaluation process? Because it is supposed to be a reflective practice. And I think one of the components is we still have to review and evaluate ourselves, I think, every 3 or 4 months. So 4 times in a year. How is that a part of this instrument?
I don't do LSG. I don't. That is not something TASB does. That is through the state, through TEA that does that. So I don't do that. That would be something that you can continue to monitor with your conservator.
Okay, because I know that's one of the pieces that we do need to honor and meet. And that's the reflective piece of it.
Sure. And I actually heard you all reflecting on it at your previous meeting. I listened to the one in March. So definitely I have worked with another board that wanted to do some LSG. So we don't do that, but we were able to look at the tool that they used and their constraints and so on to look at how it fit in. So making sure that there is some alignment there.
I think that's a vital piece that we still need to honor based on what's been provided for us in terms of an extra criteria. I mean, I know the other thing is, that continuing type of support and guidance, the level of questioning, the type of questioning, the terminology. The other thing is, I know one issue is, or one pivotal piece is the length of meetings. I know, how could you guide us through having an effective and efficient meeting that's still within, I guess, the confines of being able to reflect back and say, hey, we're not spending so much time on outside factors or things that are not relevant to the success of students?
So some of the things in LSG, and I've read it, I haven't been trained on it, but I've read it, some of the components of it, and I've heard your all's meetings on it. Some of those are best practice, right? Talking about, I'm really big about effective and efficient meetings and making sure that our board meetings have some alignment with our goals. So for example, our transmittal sheets that we do for our agenda have our goal. How is this agenda item K on buses, how is that going to impact our goals? Well, it is related to which goal and how, right? So we talk about that to make sure that we spent 90% of our time or more focus on student achievement. That is important, that your agenda is not really heavy on just, well, we're not getting back to what is the most important thing, which is student achievement for our students.
Well, I got that for sure. And I know the piece too, because it's interesting to see the kind of the umbrella of options in regards to goals. I know a lot of our goals are SMART, as you mentioned, and they're always centered around specific student outcomes. And that's something that we've been in the practice of. And so I'm assuming as a team, it would still be necessary for us to formulate things like that, just because it's still part of the piece that we need to meet. But ultimately, you know, if there's an ability to align some goals that are for the betterment of the community as well as the students as whole, I think that's a positive, just to be more frank and be more transparent with our community and find ways to align it. Because I think that's the structure that as a team we are striving for, is to find that balance. And I think that's a key piece, is that balance. How do we find it all working together? Unless, you know, others feel differently. I think that's the goal, is let's work collegially and collectively so we can be able to provide a cohesive outlook. I don't know if anyone else had anything else, or how you all would work with our staff. I mean, I know that's one other piece that we're accustomed to, is LSG work tremendously with our staff. I don't know if there's an element of that that's still within it.
So through our exceptional governments that we had before, we work with your leadership team and talk about how you can work together. I know that I think you're supposed to be on track to exit in December or something, right? From Lone Star Governance. I'm sorry, from your conservator. So, I mean, that's totally understandable if you need to continue on that path. I'm going to be very honest. I don't do Lone Star Governance. That is not what TASB does. So I can take you to being a cohesive team of 8 and help you be more successful in the work that you do with the community and the work that you do to improve things for students in this district. I do not do Lone Star Governance. So I just want to be clear that I'm not promising. I would check to make sure things are aligned, but I would not do Lone Star Governance training.
Sure. Anyone else, Mr. Salto or Ms.
Ms. Orozco, and I guess this would be for both Dr. Castleberry and yourself. Since you are not a Lone Star Governance coach, how would that affect our exit criteria? Because isn't that required for us? No?
Well, the district was working under that system. The district chooses to change that, then the exit criteria will change.
And with the exit criteria changing, say we would go with TASB as a consultant, would that be, I guess, thank you. Will that be, I guess, not beneficial, that my words just, I went blank. Will that allow us to exit the criteria? To meet, yes, to meet. Thank you.
The criteria will be revised to address, I'm not sure just how to put this. If I say goals, it's going to sound as if it's the formal goals that but we will agree on some measures of your success under whatever system you choose to use.
But just for clarification, we do not need a Lone Star coach.
You're not required to have a Lone Star coach.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm sorry, Ms.
Yes,
Carrillo,
Ms.
I
Garcia.
interrupted. Okay, so just for clarification, we are no longer seeking a Lone Star Governance coach. We have terminated that contract. We are now in pursuit of a new coach for the board. Whatever that coach, whatever template or program is going to come in, that is what our conservator will then realign those exit criterias. Correct? I just want, just for clarification purposes, based on who we decide to bring in.
Based on the program that you decide to bring in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cavazos.
I don't think anyone had anything else.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Mancha.
being that you have worked with some of my colleagues, would that reflect on how you see some of the other colleagues? Being that your vision, their input, your conversations with them could have involved some of our other colleagues, could have not, could have also involved some of the programs, some of the stuff that we're doing in the district. Would that make your vision completely different when you talk to some of the colleagues that are not part of your program?
So my coaching is about general things, right? Like how to run a meeting, how to use best practices. I don't talk specific people with any of my board members that I work with. So they do not disclose names or people. We talk about generalities, about different types, because we do work on team inventory and how to work with different personalities, but we don't talk about specific people. And so, no, it would not.
Anyone else like to share any commentary or any questions? All right. Okay. Well, I think that's it for your presentation, Ms. Orozco. We thank you for your time and your willingness to be here and supporting public education. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, ma'am. And I believe, Tony, we still have an opportunity to confer or
Yes, yeah, the board can discuss the two that presented and we can kind of go from there, see what y'all want to do.
so if I may, I guess I know Ms. Carrillo and Ms. Cavazos presenting so a question that just got into my head too. So I'm glad, Dr. Castleberry, you shared that clarification. The one thing too is just to be, so we know what we're shooting for as a team of 8 is, are we, so the alignment of goals will be modified based off of what you see, necessary? Now, with that being said, does that extend the time that will be,
Likely.
okay, and that's the question that we had, because when we initially had the discussion, it wasn't presented that way when we were looking at going to something different. You weren't clear on saying that this would impact the exit criteria timeframe.
I'm not sure what discussion you're referring to, but
When we discussed the idea of terminating our LSG coach contract.
I'm, I believe what I've said is that as you make changes in the program, that we'll re-examine the exit criteria goals.
That's pretty vague. It doesn't say the time frame is extended.
Well, I don't, I'm not ready to say what the new date is, if that's what you're looking for. I mean,
Well, it gives us a better opportunity because we're a team and we want to be able to have a conducive environment where we know what we're shooting for. And I think that may have altered the conversation that we would have had 2-3 months ago if we knew that, hey, this is going to potentially impact the realignment and modification of goals in addition to the time frame. Now, I think you've been clear about the modification of goals,
Mr. Chair,
but I don't believe you shared the time frame.
I don't mean to interrupt. I truly apologize. But I think we need to be very careful because that was a conversation we had in closed session. Twice we had that conversation about
Thank you.
where we were going, where and how we were going to be moving forward with our current LSG coach.
But I believe we had a discussion outside as well.
Because I asked, remember I asked Dr. very straight up, how long was my apologies also for interrupting, but Dr. Castle, do you remember when I asked you, does this mean that our exit criteria is going to be extended? And you kind of, in so many words said possibly.
The process for this will involve the board. It will involve TEA. It's already involved TEA. There'll be additional, I'll be drafting as I learn what your decision is and, study the approach that will be involved with the effort that you choose. I'll do some drafting. I'll have conversations with TEA. I'll have conversations with you, just as we did on the first round. So, it won't be done behind closed doors. You'll be a part of the process, but I can't tell you what it is right now.
No, and that's, I'm not asking for the time frame. Like, hey, how long is this going to take? I just wanted to be clear. We're not having a moving target, that we're not, the idea was, if we go forward with something new, does this, impact the process? And we know the goals will be altered, but we weren't clear on the time frame. But now knowing that, we know we're going to proceed forward and do what we need to do to the benefit of the district.
The time frame hasn't been nailed down. So, we'll talk about that as we move forward.
Okay, then that's fine. So that's what I just wanted to clear up prior to us going forward. I don't know if there's anything else. Mr. Resendez, just to clear what was discussed earlier, I know we had a conversation. Are we good on that front, or is this something that was not supposed to be shared? Because I thought we've had this discussion.
In terms of sharing,
The time frame, like how it would impact, not necessarily when we would exit, but the idea that the idea would be that the process would be extended.
yeah, I remember Ms. Gadio asking something about that, and I don't remember exactly Dr. Castleberry's response, but I think this board is free to, work with obviously the conservator to find out. I think the exit plan now is what, December 2023? Is that correct? Yeah, and it sounds like, my understanding, Dr. Castleberry wants to understand which program we're gonna, what type of governance program we're gonna go with. And I know the first one mentioned it's the first, 30, 40 days. And the second one kind of said it depends, maybe 2 meetings, maybe 6 meetings. So I think maybe taking it one step and figuring out where we want to go first and see if that could align with the current plan. But I don't know. She hasn't, I think she's mentioned it's still a work in progress. I guess, Dr. Castleberry, are we talking like just so the board might know, or if it does get extended like significantly, or is it possible that it might not get extended at this point? I know there's discussions.
Yeah, there's discussions. I really, once I
Depends.
say something, then it's going to be taken as fact, and
Sure.
it's just not fact
Okay,
right now.
okay.
So it's only discussion. There is concern. Well, frankly, there's concern about the budget. That's unrelated. Well, could be related, but it's not exactly what we're talking about now. And there's concern about the board's implementation of whatever new effort you pick up. So, if it takes till September, October to get trained in a new effort, then I don't think a couple of months will be evidence that you are implementing that. So, I will be recommending that the time be extended. Whether that's 6 months or a year, I don't know right now.
All right. So then, based off of that, I mean, how does this to either programs, will they satisfy any of the needs or align with anything that we have now? Because that's kind of guide us through deciding which program to choose.
I don't think either one of these allows us to leave the exit criteria for the third goal to stay in place. You know, that has to change. So depending on which of those you choose, you know, we'll set up some markers and make those revisions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Cadell.
Dr. Castleberry, you just said that neither one of those that presented will line up with a third goal. So what are we to do then going forward then? Okay, okay.
Okay.
Will fit.
Whatever you.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I? With all due respect, Dr. Castleberry. Although I don't want our money to keep going to a conservator, I understand the reason you were here in the first place. We have made a lot of progress, but not enough because this board is still not where it needs to be, in my opinion. I think for me, I don't want to focus on, is it a 6-week training? Is it a 10-week training? Is it a 2-month training? And then we're done? No. For me, it's, although I don't want to keep paying a conservator, I am not in a position to rush into any training. I don't want to go through the motions of checking another box and checking another box and checking. And here's my certificate of completion. I'm done. The board is where it needs to be. I think each of us will, at the end of whatever training we get, whatever coaching we continue to do or not, that we will have to be accountable, truly accountable and honest, not only with each other, with our colleagues and the community. Have we learned what it is to be a board member? Have we learned not to micromanage? Have we learned not to be bringing personal, issues to the board or to the community? Have we learned to stay in our role? Because I certainly still need that education. I certainly still need truly to understand what my role is or is not. So whatever program we decide to move forward, or the majority of us decide to move forward, I don't want to walk into that training, that coaching with a mindset of, when is she going to leave? When are we done? So we can have her leave. I want to walk in saying, what am I going to learn and truly implement in myself so that I can give that much better of me to my colleagues, the board, the staff, the community. That's what I want to focus on. As much as I don't want to pay you, I don't want to rush into learning what my role is, because we come from a background of a lot of assumptions, and I want those assumptions erased. I want those assumptions to be clear and transparent, and I want nothing but the knowledge of what I am supposed to do in this district, sitting at this dais for those that voted me into office. And if I can't learn at the end of that training, then maybe this place is not for me anymore. Because my goal is to learn, and to not only learn it for the time frame that I need to meet a goal or a criteria. I want to learn it so that I am effective, not just on this seat, but in every seat I take in this community. And by that, I don't mean like the seat, I mean like a parent at a football game, at a basketball game, at a town hall meeting. Because that role doesn't change whether I'm sitting here or I'm sitting at a stadium at a football game or watching a tennis match. My role needs to be intact and I need to be secure about my knowledge of it, regardless of where I am in this community.
You make a good point, Ms. Crosco, and that relates to the second exit criteria goal, which is about governance. And so if you'll recall on the report, there's some areas for growth there. So we're really talking, while we're focused tonight on primarily the third exit criterion, the revisions that we will talk about will look at the whole set.
Yeah, because I think that's the piece that, I mean, I try to allude to was we didn't have something that was aligned, presented to us aligned with goal number 3, which was a time frame. And that's something that neither group was willing to commit to. And so that's where I'm like, oh, well, that's a major piece. So to me, it's like, as anybody that's in education, we start with the end in mind, right? And that's where it's not a check mark or a checklist that we as a team are looking for. In my opinion, as a team, we're looking as, well, what do we need to do to reach the goal? And we want it to be a collaborative effort. We don't want it to be that, oh, well, this is what we came up with. Now figure out how to do it. And that's why I'm asking for your input, Dr. Castleberry, because I wanted to make sure that, one, we can align some of the things that we do have, because like they mentioned, both groups, they're all best practices. So what can we modify and align that already we do? And it doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. So those are things that we're not trying to be an inquisition. I just want to know what I can do best to support our team, because really, I don't want to set us up for failure if we're going the wrong trajectory,
Well, there's a lot of work for us to do to get those criteria comfortable for all of us and approved by TEA. So.
But yeah, that's just the idea, is just we want to know what the end in mind, because you can't really, I mean, that's just the regular ideas, right? How do we establish what we don't know? I mean, it's kind of like STAR when we practice, we get our kids ready for STAR. It's like, we've got so many teaks, but yet we don't know what they're actually going to show because it's a crapshoot. And that same day, I'd be like, man, I focused on this teak when it should have been this one, and it wasn't. And oh man, these kids, I set them up, so that's the idea. So, it's not something that we're looking to be competitive about. We're certainly supportive in cohesion of input and guidance to support our team.
So how will you get to the decision about what comes next?
So, I mean, I'll take a lead in saying that looking at the two options, because unfortunately we just had two options, right? To me, the Moak and Casey came across as something that would align better with our partnership with the conservator, in my mind.
So,
Ms. Ortiz?
okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask, do they have to be mutually exclusive? Because I really like what she has to present in getting us the training that we need. And I really wish we would have had an opportunity to work with TASB. And we're a member of TASB. And do we get any other services? Do we get any other services from TASB other than being a member?
First, real quick, Mr. Soto pointed out, and he reminded me, we had to have this lined up just for presentation and discussion, not for action. But I think the idea was, to talk about, we could put it for action at the very next meeting, obviously. And give you all time to think about it. And then also, if you want us to try to get those other two, one of them, I'll tell you, she was not comfortable presenting even probably next week because she can't start until like maybe the end of August or September. She didn't feel fair. The other one, he didn't tell me why he declined. He just respectfully declined. So I don't know. But just so we could talk about it, think about it, but then at our next workshop meeting or our next regular meeting, we could put it for action. It's up to you.
Yeah. So,
Or if we have another, okay, but in the future we can for sure.
yeah. And to me, I knew where we're voting, but I mean, the idea was presented.
Yeah.
Well, which direction are you leaning for?
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
I'm kind of sharing out loud because how else am we
Absolutely.
going to know? Like,
But-
I mean, that's the idea.
So that's what my question was, Mr. Chair. Do they have to be mutually exclusive? because what she offered
It's free.
is free because we're a member of TASB, but also because I felt like it was more focused on us and getting, so it starts here at the top, and if we fix all the little cracks, maybe it'll come down. But Moat Casey, man, they have, yes, that broad spectrum of what they do and how they do it. And I did go to 2 of the Moat Casey presentations. I didn't make myself known, but I did go to 2 of them for Summer Leadership Institute just to listen to them. And I was just floored with their scope of how they worked with school districts. And we have a contract with them, and the product that they have brought to us in the past has been exceptional. It has been without bias either. I mean, they have presented us with things that we needed to know, and they didn't sugarcoat anything, and they presented, and it was not with any kind of bias. And I like that. I like what I heard. I don't know which session you went to, but I went to 2 of their sessions, and I liked that. But I like her too, because she focuses on the team of 8, and I think we've come a long way as a board, and it's nice to see us moving forward. And we see little maybe hairline fractures, but maybe that's what we were missing in Lone Star Governance was her kind of guidance, experience, who knows, right? But we have to move forward. And I just wanted to know if they have to be mutually exclusive.
In my opinion, no, they don't.
I mean,
We'd have to
I
talk
think-
to them, but
Yeah,
it's up to you.
and they would have to be able to align their coaching styles. Well, with them collectively too, first, because they're 2 different entities. I don't know if they'd be liking to hear we're working with one coach and then we're working with them. They might be like, well, are you listening to me or are you listening to them? And that's kind of but at the same time, it seems that we've had some of our colleagues already initiating conversations with this institute with Ms. Orozco. So that I don't think that's out of the line.
So, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
may,
Ms. Cabas.
could we bring them back to discuss that? To discuss, would they even entertain collaborating together? They might not. They might go, yeah, sorry, it's either one or.
I think we could probably email them or call
We
them
could,
probably
re-
to save
we- yeah,
time.
we could reach out to them for sure. And what I'm hearing you're saying is you liked that hers was mainly board centric, board stuff. And Moak was district wide. This is how.
Yes.
So she seemed to be willing to customize her training based on what your needs were. He was more, this is our program. So we.
Which would make I'm
we
sorry.
Talk to them about it, but I was thinking what you were, they may both, and especially because she's free. So,
Free and good, because that was a good presentation. Yes.
Mr. Mancha,
No, I was just gonna say, I really, it was very, very, very eye opener, I guess, to see a program that focuses not just on the team of 8, but on what Moat Casey has already put in place. I think that is by all means very needed here in our district. And I mostly was that community communication, because we are so, we're on uncharted waters when do you speak to the community? When do you, don't ask, don't say, don't, it's like, oh my goodness. But the fact that they have set in place something that is successful for school districts, that was a big wow. I also think, like Mrs. Ortiz, if we focus on us, then that, if we're the foundation that's holding everything up, then if we're strong, everything else above us will be strong. Because although we're at the top, it's our superintendent we have to support. He supports his staff. The staff supports our campuses. It's not, we're not at the top and everybody's here. No, we're literally holding our superintendent and saying, we support you. Do what's best. We trust you. You lead us, you guide us. And then that's how, it should trickle up, I guess, and not down. But I would be very interested if we can really, really focus on the board while still really focusing on what Mo Casey said. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Mancha or Ms. Carrillo?
I was just gonna ask Mr. Luna, since you shared that you take some of the classes, is there any way that she can do classes with all of us? Are they free or do they charge?
Well, she just started another Journey to Excellence course, and I really recommend it's like $285. It's really therapy for a school board member because she, like you say, she brings her experience, she brings her opinion, she brings her positiveness to a situation and what you can do. And that's why she was probably an awesome teacher as well, because she knows the needs of the students, she knows the needs of the community. She's been there. She's been in like the lowest performing school districts here in Bexar County. And she is still inspiring to do better, even though she's been in that situation. So my thing is that we have, I talked to Dr. Cassavery about a balance in life because we want to do better as ourselves, but then we also have to do better as a community person. So we need to build on both fronts, so to speak. My opinion is that individually, you need to probably take those, you could take those classes, with her, and we can pay. Those, I've been to a few more myself, and then use Mo Casey's resources, because we need to attack this, two-prong approach. We have to better ourselves, but we also need to better the community while we're doing it. So that's the balance that I think that I could give to this group, or think my opinion should be with it. We need to provide both. We need to build ourselves, but we also build a community. So it's a big thing. Like Ms. Cavazos says, is we are the foundation. We are the leaders in this community. I mean, I'm just astounded at the decisions that we have to make on this board are just life changing for some people. So we really have to decide what we're going to do.
All right,
So
Mr.
as
Mancha.
I was getting at, maybe she can do one course with all of us or do a couple of courses with all of us, and that'll help us in one point. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, I think we need to see Ms. Castleberry more as an ally than anything else. We kind of always like, well, when are we going to read you? Why are we paying you? I see her more as an ally. I don't see her anymore as somebody I need to worry about. I see her as somebody that I can talk to and give her some, what do you think? I had already talked to her about Mo Casey. I shared with her what I experienced. And I had been trying to convince Mr. Madrigal for years. How come we never come and talk about what we learned at TASB conventions? What's the purpose of me going to the convention? And then that's it. It's over. When we can have a class and everybody discuss, this is what I learned. I shared with her what I learned when I went. I told her, this is what I learned from these guys. This is what I learned from this group. This is what I learned from this school that does Lone Star governance. And they're doing that 52% student outcome goals. And I'm like, wow. Why can't we do it? And a lot of times I think it's because we see her as, I got to worry about Miss Castleberry. What is she going to say if I do this? What is she going to say? So I say what I say, and then I talk to her about it. I said, this is why I said it, ma'am. This is what I meant. And I think that's a relationship that we need to have with each one of us. If you have a concern or something that I said, come up to me and tell me, hey, Mr. Mancha, why did you say that? And I'll be more than happy to tell you. why I said it. Instead of letting it go and then you're angry at me or you're upset at me. You know, we need to work as a team. And this is where the team, as the gentleman said, a team of 9. Because as long as she's here, she's part of this team. So that's what we need to learn. Instead of being in a hurry of getting her out of here, let's learn as much as we can from her and then keep it going after we're gone. Because I'm not going to be here forever. None of y'all are going to be here forever. We want to leave a legacy here once we're gone and make sure that somebody else keeps fighting that goal that we fought for these kids. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate those words, Mr. Mancha. As always, anything else we'd like to share? No.
I was gonna say,
Ms. Carrillo?
he said it already.
No, well, certainly, I mean, I know the team is conscientious of that, and that's why we want to begin with the end in mind, so we can have that collaboration, because we don't want to see a roadblock or vice versa. I mean, the team wants to be better, and the team is committed to that. And so, but at the same time, you know, if there's questions on that front, that individual can certainly ask us just as well. And it should be an open relationship to be a free flow of ideas. Mhm. So I think we have an idea of what we want to do. If there's specifics, I know this was a little out of character for what we normally do. So trust me, this was there was a rhyme and reason behind it, not because I wanted us to spend more time with each other, even though we do enjoy it. But the idea is just because if not, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to really speak amongst ourselves. And then we're just sending emails to answer questions, and we really don't know what is that person really thinking or what the rationale is. So I think we have an idea. If there's further questions related to the items as was suggested by some of our colleagues, please, I think we have direction there, but if there's others, please don't hesitate to email Mr. Soto, and then from there, Mr. Soto can touch base with the team. And so with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
Scadio, thank you so much. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second, Luna.
Mr. Luna seconds the
Mr.
adjournment.
Chair?
Yes, Ms. Cavazos, I mean, Ms. Ortiz, sorry. Sorry.
There's a couple of things. One, I'd like, we would be remiss if we did not take a moment of silence for Mr. Soto's father. If we could do that before we adjourn, and then I have something else I'd like to say.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Soto, I just wanted you to know that I'm sure that all of my colleagues here want you to know that you and your family are in our thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. I didn't want you to leave here not knowing that, going on the record.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Ms. Ortiz.
And then I have one other thing I would like to say, that all of us just received notification. Congratulations to our very own Julian Roque on being named to the San Antonio 5A All Area Baseball Team. He's a McCollum senior. I had the privilege of giving him his diploma, and he's a good kid. Played baseball at Five Diamonds.
Thank you, ma'am. So we do have the motion on the floor to adjourn, and Mr. Acosta, if you're ready, sir, we can go. All right, we can go ahead and close the vote, sir. Motion carries, meeting adjourned. It is 8:29. Thank you, everyone.